I'm Stephen Dare from Metrojacksonville.com, and I want to talk to you about the vibrant, cool city that you live in. For more than 30 years, since I was in my teens and 20s, I've been a part of what gets called the artistic community of Jacksonville, and I want to share with you the wondrous things that I've seen and experienced as a result. For a number of reasons, which I will not go into here, people seem to believe that Jayville isn't as cultured as, or sometimes even as good as other cities, and there are some people who think that Jacksonville isn't cultured at all. What complete and utter poppycock. Indeed, if only the truth were known, our city is one of the biggest cultural resources of this country. And people from Jacksonville have helped change the face of art, music, and the humanities, and they've done it with little recognition, attention, thanks, or even much approval. Especially over these past 20 years, following the retirement and passing of one of the great commentators of Jacksonville's creative life, Anne Hyman, the gentle, thoughtful, deeply sensitive woman who wrote about a couple of generations of Jacksonville's artists, musicians, and writers. Believe it or not, we all have a rich, shared cultural history here in Jacksonville, an artistic heritage to be proud of and celebrated, and not one to be dishonored by ignoring and forgetting it. It was, after all, here, in the clubs of the La Villa district, that the blues was officially named. And this is where Ray Charles first put together gospel and the blues to create soul music. It's the home of Southern fried rock, and many of the legends of that music are still living residents of this city. Not every place can claim to be the cradle of three such uniquely American musical styles. Perhaps New Orleans is our only peer. Even now, the top celebrity photographer in the world, Tyler Shields, is a homegrown Jacksonville native who grew up on the South Side. And he first made a name for himself skating at Kona Skate Park. But his work has recently been acquired by the Tate National Gallery in the United Kingdom, where he joins only a handful of artists from the South who have ever been so recognized by that prestigious museum. And as we speak, he's enjoying global fame and recognition for his colorful, playful, challenging photography. Local multimedia artist Kirby McClure has been shown at the Saatchi Gallery. He's making a name for himself directing the art house music videos for Skrillex. Actors Ashley Greene and Tyler Ross have been cast in highly successful Hollywood franchises. Ashley's familiar for her role in the Twilight series, and Tyler's just been cast in Zombieland 2. Michael Emerson from television's Lost spent several years producing Shakespeare at Metropolitan Park with Theater Jacksonville, which is one of the country's oldest representatives of the Little Theater movement. Some of the country's most beautiful and talented people are from here. And more importantly to me and you, the talented and beautiful people that will be celebrated and appreciated in the future are here now. And they're still performing at prices and places that you can access as easily as walking down the street. Now, before this sounds like some kind of preachy rant about people not appreciating the local artists or not being cultured enough to be hip or some other nonsense, let me state up front, the blame for the general lack of awareness and appreciation lies mostly with us here in the media, and somewhat with the insular nature of the arts communities themselves. Us here in the media, because we haven't covered the arts with the attention and intelligence that our creative community deserves. We in the media have treated the cultural life of this city like a series of common event notices, tickets to be sold, or funds to be raised, or even and I'm ashamed to admit this, as charities to be supported because of their lack of advertising budgets, rather than something to be enjoyed and understood because of the things that they add to our lives. It's been more than a decade since a large media outlet has thoughtfully covered the arts. And even then, no publication has covered the achievements of the entire city. Instead of partial coverage based on race or religion, or until very recently, sexual identity. Well, we hope to end that. And I pledge to you, our neighbors and fellow citizens and partners in the experience of our city, that we'll do our part to treat the arts and humanities that define us in the world we live in as being worthy of notice and appreciation. Hopefully others will join us, including anyone watching this video or listening to or reading these words. But enough about that. On to the arts communities themselves. I've already talked about the insulated nature of the separated communities of arts and creative types, and oftentimes they lack the resources to invite you to join them. Shows happen and you find out about it afterwards. Bands come to town and you miss them. There are galleries, but you can't find them. You haven't heard of them. You have no idea whether or not there's a dance performance or a poetry reading, or if you should see your way through to spending a $10 or $20 on an evening that might end up being one of the worst of your life. Well, this is partially the fault of the creatives. Not enough time explaining and inviting the public, not enough effort in getting the word out, too much impatience with the few media types that still cover cultural stories. But that doesn't mean that they don't exist. Let me tell you about a few of them now. Places and organizations where something exciting and worthwhile is going on. If you want to get inspired with the sheer nutty energy of raw artists putting together new work in groups and be a part of a bunch of creative minds all cross-inspiring each other, check out Cork. The name is one of those semi-clever acronyms that is meant to also tell you the location, C-O-R-K, the corner of Roselle and King. Now this is located in the Riverside area, and King Street is a street that begins on the river at St. Vincent's Hospital's emergency room, and then it goes north through a very busy cafe and nightlife district. If you follow it far enough, it'll take you over the railroad tracks into a building that you literally cannot miss unless you are unable to see color. At Cork, you can find the studio and work of Sean Thurston, an artist whose murals will make him as much a part of Jaysville's legendary as the architecture of Clutho at some point. You can see the meandering, aggressive work of Dolph James. You can see the detailed botanical drawings and the work of the reassuringly southern Jim Draper. We will be paying a lot of attention to this collection of creative people in later episodes, but note the organization. It's open to the public tours every Saturday. Now at the beaches, there's something happening in theater. Players by the Sea has become a creative powerhouse in recent years, and this season has been a house of wonders. Starting with the dynamic directing work of former Warhol factory worker Barbara Colacello. Barbara directed a heartbreaking, breathtaking contemporary urban musical written by Brooklyn playwright Stu that was literally life-changing for many people in the audience. Directing an unbelievably talented cast starring a talented dancer, DeWitt Cooper, in a non-dancing role, as the narrator, Barbara created the kind of theater that inspires 20-year-olds to become lifelong theater lovers. And this is not a fluke at the long, sleepy Seaside Theater Company. The past 3 seasons in particular have provided audiences with shows that would be appreciatively reviewed in first-tier cities across the country. Not so much here, due to the dearth of qualified writers with audiences large enough to make a difference. But if you would like to attend theater that makes you feel like the evening was well spent, check out the indie productions being sponsored here. Well, this is stretching on a bit. Let me close here for now. If you take nothing else from this discussion, just rest assured that you are living in a vitally alive city whose texture and brilliance has been obscured by a lack of coverage and a fragmented nature that leaves most people with only a small glimpse of something that's much, much better in its entirety than merely its parts. I'm Stephen Dare, and I thank you for your time and attention. Reach out. This is your life. Make it worth living in.